They called it a vote, but there was never a choice. The Galactic Council had already made up its mind. Humanity, the anomaly of the stars, was to be exiled. Not destroyed, contained. They feared Earth not for what it had done, but for what it might become. In a chamber of 100 alien voices, humanity stood alone as the judgment was declared. Too aggressive, too emotional, too unstable. That was the official reasoning, spoken in sterile tones by species who had forgotten war, forgotten struggle, forgotten what it meant to fight for a future. Earth was labeled a threat not for actions but for potential. Humanity had advanced too fast, climbed too high, burned too bright. In less than a century, Earth had closed the gap between itself and species who'd ruled the stars for millennia. And that terrified them. No one came to humanity's defense. The Allies' Earth thought it had built remained silent, heads bowed, afraid to draw the Council's gaze. The sentence was carried out immediately. Earth was severed, cut off from trade, travel, knowledge. No more wormholes, no more data streams, no more galactic access. It was as if Earth had never existed. The planet fell into a forced silence. Orbital stations were dismantled. Diplomatic outposts were evacuated. Satellites were wiped clean. Earth was left alone, floating in the dark like a forgotten ember. The Council expected decay, collapse, perhaps civil war. They believed humans would devour each other without their guidance, that isolation would suffocate them. But they misunderstood the fire they had tried to snuff out. Humanity didn't scream. It didn't beg. It didn't protest. The final transmission Earth sent to the Council was just 3 words. We remember this. There were no threats, no pleas, just a promise. The stars moved on. The Council returned to business as usual. Other species whispered about Earth now and then, but over time, even the memory faded. Centuries of peace had bred arrogance. They had seen empires fall before, species that rose too fast, too recklessly. Humanity would be no different, just another warning in the archives, another name etched into history's cautionary list. But back on Earth, something was changing. Cut off from the galaxy, humanity was forced to look inward. And it didn't break. It adapted. Old divisions lost meaning. For the first time in remembered history, Earth became one. Not under force, but through necessity. There were no alien imports now. No safety nets. No interference. Only the will to survive. And more than that, the will to prove they had never needed permission to belong among the stars. The exile didn't kill Earth. It focused it. What the Council had labeled a punishment, humanity accepted as a challenge. And challenges were what they had always excelled at. Because if history had taught anything, it was this: when you push humanity into a corner, it doesn't crumble. It evolves. Years passed, then decades. The galaxy believed Earth had gone silent. But silence is not the same as surrender. Beneath the clouds of a supposedly broken world, humanity rebuilt. Not with the help of allies, but with bare hands, sharp minds, and an unmatched refusal to die quietly. Cut off from alien technology, they turned inward and reimagined everything from scratch. Old systems were discarded. Politics gave way to purpose. Divisions collapsed beneath the weight of a single unifying truth. They had been exiled, not because they were dangerous, but because they were feared. In the underground cities of New Europa, the floating laboratories above the Pacific, and the vast data towers of the Sahara Technarchs, humanity evolved. They didn't just recover lost knowledge, they surpassed it. Without alien oversight, there were no ethical limits imposed by frightened species. AI was no longer bound by restrictions written by nervous council edicts. Genetic advancements were no longer smothered under treaties written in fear. Humanity asked no one for permission. They simply built. And in the shadows of that exile, a name began to circulate among the hidden elite: Project Phoenix. No public records, no speeches, no broadcasts, just whispers. It began as theory, then prototypes, then entire fleets constructed deep beneath the surface of the Moon and Mars. Ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. No ornamental plating, no ceremonial design, only functionality, only purpose. Hulls forged from adaptive alloys. Weapon systems built to counter every known alien defense. Shields not to protect, but to outlast. Every vessel was silent, cold, and black as vacuum. No insignias, no flag, because Earth no longer flew under anyone's banner but its own. They trained not for revenge, but readiness. The Phoenix pilots, silent, surgically selected, and trained from birth, were more than soldiers. They were reminders, not of Earth's fall, but of what the galaxy had chosen to exile. Creativity sharpened by pain, unity forged through abandonment, and the terrifying clarity of a species with nothing left to lose. The Council still watched, of course. From a distance, they saw a quiet Earth, seemingly stagnant, seemingly docile. Their probes returned peaceful images. Thriving cities, green landscapes, simple trade among isolated systems. What they didn't see was the sensor-cloaked sky stations watching them back. What they never detected were the test fields in Jupiter's shadow, or the wormhole generators hidden beneath Antarctica's ice. Humanity hadn't forgotten. They had simply learned patience. The day would come, not to conquer, not to rule, but to answer the question the Council had never dared to ask. What happens when you exile the one species that refuses to stay buried? Earth had been cast out, but they had never stopped building, and they had never stopped remembering. The first strike was not a declaration of war. It was a message. Out on the rim, a Galactic Council outpost, Theta 9, vanished. No distress call, no survivors. One moment it existed. The next, it was space dust. A response team arrived days later to investigate. All they found were fragments, melted architecture, and radiation signatures that matched no known species. No trace of attackers. No warning. Just silence. Then it happened again. And again. 3 more colonies gone, strategic ones, each hosting intelligence hubs and defense nodes. Still no demands. No messages. Only obliteration. Council panic spread. Meetings turned urgent. Theories collided. Was it a rogue AI? A new species? A rebellion? Then came the broadcast. Every star system under Council jurisdiction received it simultaneously. No encryption. No anthem. Just a face. Human. Emotionless. Cold. Scarred. Eyes like steel. We were exiled. We accepted. But do not mistake silence for submission. You cut us off to contain us. And now we return, not for vengeance but balance. Your time of unearned authority ends today. And then the signal ended. No threats, no demands. Just a fact, humanity was back. The Phoenix fleet appeared within hours. 12 ships. Black, angular, motionless. And then they moved. In the span of 90 seconds, they tore through the largest Council patrol fleet in the sector. Plasma beams bent around their hulls. Gravity mines blinked uselessly against adaptive shielding. Council destroyers exploded before they could even lock weapons. The Phoenix ships didn't communicate. They didn't gloat. They erased. The galaxy had known war before, but not like this. Not with precision. Not with restraint honed by centuries of watching, studying, and preparing. These ships were not driven by chaos. They were purpose incarnate. Each movement calculated. Each strike intentional. No civilians harmed. No infrastructure wasted. Just surgical dismantling of power. And the worst part? No one knew what else humanity had. If these were just 12 ships, what were the rest doing? Council intelligence scrambled for answers. But Earth was a black box. Every satellite probe sent was lost. Every transmission blocked. It was as if Earth had rewritten physics itself, or worse, evolved beyond what the Council could comprehend. Species that had once voted for exile now questioned the decision. Fear rippled through the core worlds. Not because humans were cruel, but because they weren't reacting. They weren't retaliating like animals. They were acting like something far more terrifying. A force with purpose, memory, and the means to execute both without hesitation. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council faced a power it didn't understand, couldn't control, and had no leverage over. And all they could do was watch as humanity, once exiled, once dismissed, stepped back onto the galactic stage, not as victims, but as architects of a new order. The Council expected invasion, retaliation, fire raining from the skies, planets reduced to ash. That was how wars were fought. That was how the old empires had fallen. But humanity did not come to burn the galaxy. They came to reshape it. The Phoenix Fleet did not conquer worlds. It liberated them. Systems long silenced by the Council's bureaucracy were given autonomy. Forgotten species, once buried under red tape and neglect, received technology, medicine, and truth. Satellites were dropped into orbit, broadcasting unfiltered history, suppressed files, and communications the Council had erased. One by one, old alliances crumbled. Not by force, but by exposure. Humanity didn't offer rulership. They offered choice, and that terrified the Council more than any weapon. Attempts to negotiate were met with silence. Not arrogance, indifference. Earth had no interest in diplomacy with those who had already delivered their judgment. The Council demanded answers. One of their envoys pleaded, "Why didn't you destroy us?" The reply came not from a ship, but from a single human voice, transmitted across every system. "Because we're not what you feared. We are what you made. We don't burn forests. We uproot rot." In the weeks that followed, power shifted. Council leadership resigned or vanished. The ancient alliances dissolved. New coalitions rose, formed not through dominance but consent. Humanity wasn't leading by fear. They were leading by example. Every liberated world spread the same message. They remembered, and with every system that broke free, the legend of Earth grew. Not as conquerors, but as the species that survived exile, endured isolation, and returned with the strength to change everything without becoming what they had once opposed. Earth itself remained quiet. No parades, no monuments, just progress. The Council's former capital became neutral ground, restructured into the assembly of free worlds. Its towering halls once echoed with judgment. Now they resonated with cooperation. Humanity sat among them, not above, not apart, but present. Not all forgave them, not all trusted them, but none doubted them, because Earth had done the impossible. Returned from exile, shattered the old order, and built something stronger, not with domination, but with fire sharpened into focus. And as the stars adjusted to this new reality, one truth echoed through the void. Humanity had not come to settle scores. They had come to settle the future. The exile had been meant to erase them. Instead, it carved them into something relentless. They weren't the mistake the Council thought they were. They were the correction. And in their silence, they had learned the one lesson no other species dared embrace. You don't have to rule the stars to shape them. You only have to survive long enough to return.